Strength the day, be your best every day. Hi, I'm Redeemus, founder and director of Strengths Optimizer. I aim to help you stay healthy, be happier, and deal with challenges with a greater resilience. Wait a minute, I'm not Redeemus, but I'm sure my dad won't mind me hijacking his show, right? Oh, how could I forget? I'm Sebastian, the mastermind behind Strength Optimizer Signs Up Your Wellbeing series. Today, you will meet Dr. Siew Wai Wong. Siew Wai will give you a glimpse of her experience helping COVID patients while trying to take care of her own mental well-being, including postnatal depression. This is a special edition dedicated to all our medical frontliners to thank them and to acknowledge their hard works and sacrifices, often at the expense of their own well-being. Do you know what it is like to look after COVID patients and their families? Why are so many medical frontliners finding it challenging to look after their well-being? What can our healthcare workers do to take care of themselves? But before we get right into it, I have a few very special friends who would like to say hi, hello there, to share what they think that our frontline workers could do to help them with their mental health and well-being. Thank you, and I'll see you later.
Doctors and nurses can take care of themselves by sleeping, eating healthy food, get sunlight and exercise, and drink water. Hi, I'm Eliana, and this is my brother.
Caleb. We're part of the Glenn family.
Physical health, so getting out and having a walk or a jog, and keeping your immune system healthier and stronger instead of not doing it and letting it become weaker and weaker.
If you work on your mental health, you could socialize with people more, talk to them, know them, just talk about how your day's been so you don't feel stressed if you got your chest.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Doctors and nurses work so hard inside, and I think they need to go outside, go get some fresh air, and go and exercise.
But still, you can do some things inside, like cooking healthy foods, watching TV, and spending time with your family.
Doctors and nurses use most of their time protecting other people, and I think they need some time to look after themselves so they can be at their best to look after other people.
And you can go crazy.
Woo!
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hey Teddy and Pikachu, I'm really glad that I can talk to you. You know I had a really rough day, so I'm just really glad to have someone to talk to. An excellent way of keeping your well-being in check is having a wonderful group of friends and family that you can hang out with and talk with. Bye! Solving a Rubik's Cube is something I enjoy doing because it keeps my mind sharp and it's fun to do. See the scramble? I'll solve it. Done! See? It's solved! Yay! Doing activities that make you feel good are awesome, and they help to boost your well-being because they give you dopamine when they're done. Like climbing this wall, which I'm gonna do right now. Wow, we view from up here. You should try it. Sometimes playing a musical instrument like a piano can help to take the stress out of life and to unleash your creativity. Spending time in sit, Miso. Sit. Good. Spending time in nature is very good for your well-being, especially with walking a dog or a cat, like Miso here. Sit, Miso. Sit. Good. And he likes to be pet. You know, people, science states that sleep is a boost to your well-being. So that's what I'm gonna do. Good night, everyone.
Hi, I'm Adimus, founder and director of Strength Optimizer. Thank you for watching Strength Optimizer, the Size Up Your Wellbeing series, a very special edition dedicated to all our medical frontliners. And today we have Dr. Siew Wai Wong joining us from Melbourne. Siew Wai is an ICU consultant working at the Monash Medical Center. I'm so grateful that you can join us today, Siew Wai. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you, Adimus. Thanks for having me today.
No worries. And thank you again for taking the time to share your experience working with COVID patients and what you do to look after your own mental health well-being. So, Siew Wai, what are your roles and responsibility working as an ICU consultant when looking after the COVID patients and their families?
So as an ICU consultant, my job is to lead a team of junior medical staff and also staff in the management of patients in our ICU. So for COVID patients, they usually come to ICU when they require higher level of oxygen therapy or when they can't breathe for themselves or the ward can't cope with the workload to look after them. And these type of patients come to our ICU and it is our job to provide them the intensive care to support their organ system. My job is to facilitate this and also to look after, and also to supervise the junior medical staff.
All right. I know that the next questions may be a little bit difficult to answer, but it's more of again gaining from your experience, because from the media, a lot of time we hear and see the number of COVID cases is going skyrocket high, but there hasn't been a lot, I guess, of report or talks about patients who have recovered from COVID. So again, based on your professional experiences, what is it like when it comes to patient recovery?
We in Australia are very lucky that we haven't had a lot of COVID cases like in many parts of the world. Most of our patients, in fact, nearly all of our patients who come to our ICU for COVID, they recover and got discharged to the ward and also discharged home. So based on my limited experience in looking after this limited number of COVID patients, the recovery can be long if the disease is complex. For the simple COVID patients, of course, they come into the ICU for 1 or 2 days of oxygen therapy and they got sent out to the ward. And for the patients who develop multiple organ dysfunction as syndrome from the COVID, then the recovery process is very long. They stay in ICU for a few weeks and then they go to the ward for another few weeks of step down of their therapy, and eventually they discharged to a rehabilitation center.
I I think it's always good to know to have this more the balanced set of view rather than sometimes focusing on the cases or the numbers to bring up. It can be equally important to look at the number of people who actually recovered. As you mentioned, even though for some people it can be a long road of recovery, but at least we know that it's no longer become a life-threatening kind of a medical condition.
Correct. And we are lucky because we don't have that many patients, so we could really focus our effort on looking after that few patients and making sure that they we help them in their recovery.
Yeah. And I think that's why you also highlighted one very important point, that indeed in Australia we are very privileged and blessed in the sense that when it comes to the COVID pandemic, definitely compared to many parts of the world where we know that the COVID pandemic has stretched or even exceeded the capacity of many hospitals and ICUs in Australia. Overall, yes, we have our own fair challenges, but still, as I said, it's a lot more manageable. Again, so what have been some of your challenges working in this so-called COVID pandemic environment in Melbourne or in Australia?
So when the pandemic first started, we had no idea what was happening. We were looking at our colleagues in Europe and North America, where there were so many cases, and the ICUs were looking at capacity, and they were basically burned out, and also a lot of healthcare got infected. So when it first happened, we were bracing ourselves for the worst. We were expecting the worst to happen. So the challenges at the time was not knowing what's COVID and how to manage. It was new. So we had to deal with a lot of anxiety amongst ourselves and all the staff member. And I remember when it first started, we were tasked with coming up with many protocols to train our staff members so that we can deliver our ICU care safely to protect our staff member, and also to deliver care that's specific to COVID patients. So we were working really hard for the first few weeks when the pandemic first hit, come up with protocols and also training up the entire department of 200-300 staff members with a lot of simulation, training sessions, workshops, so that everyone is fully equipped to look after COVID patients at the same time to protect ourselves so that we don't get infected. So those were just in the beginning.
So the initial phase of the unknown, the anxiety, I guess that is always going to be one of the main source of fear, because the fear of the unknown is very real, especially talking about such a significant illness or disease. So it sounds like this also has been a very tight learning rope for you, for your team, for everyone's, to the best of your ability to lead the team and to come up with so many protocols.
Correct. It was really steep for all of us. We learned from our colleagues from North America and also Europe. And also the other challenges that I need to mention is that because that was also the time when we also had lockdown in Australia, in Melbourne at that time. So a lot of our staff members are actually parents. So they had to stay home to look after their kids as well. And also a number of staff have suspicion of COVID infection. Therefore, we need to have testing done and self-isolation. And a number of our workforce were down at that time. So our work really stretched really thin. That was also another challenge.
And again, it's so real because a lot of time, we can see our medical frontliners or the healthcare workers as the professions. Yes, they are, but yet at the same time, behind the uniforms, you see moms, dads, brothers, sisters, leaders, neighbors, community members that also have so-called the care responsibility for your own immediate family members as well. So I just can't imagine, I guess, the level of anxiety that all of you carry, both at the workplace, but also at home, concerning for the well-being and the safety and the health of your loved ones as well.
Correct. My husband was so anxious for me, even though I myself, I was not very worried about myself. But my husband, or actually I can speak for the families who have got partners who are not in the medical field. We can understand the anxiety level as well, because they really are anxious for their loved one. So my husband will make me come through another entry in the house after I work. Yes, just so that make sure I take off everything, clean myself, wash myself before I'm allowed to enter into the house.
Yeah.
Because we have children.
Yeah.
So we don't have children.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that this may be an obvious questions. And again, I just want to draw out a little bit more, like what motivates you and millions of our medical frontliners and healthcare workers around the world to keep going, to keep doing what they do best, showing up at work, despite of the overwhelming stress and constant disruptions from COVID?
I guess as frontliner or healthcare professional, we enter into this industry for the love of the job. A lot of us have that love and a passion to provide care for our patients, and that is why we chose to be in the healthcare profession. Whether or not it's COVID, it is that sense of the ability that we can provide something special to make a difference in the patient's life when they were in the most vulnerable period of their life. And that sense of ability to help them in this time, it's really rewarding for healthcare work. And I particularly like the fact that I can journey with the family members as well, to support them emotionally at that time. So that gives a motivation to keep going during this difficult time.
So would it be correct to also say that there's this sense of mission, of purpose, of meaning in what you do, knowing that it's more than just alleviating the pain symptoms or the suffering, so to speak, but also, as I said, to have this privilege to make such a significant difference in someone's life, especially when they're at the lowest point, or when physically, mentally, where they're most vulnerable as well.
That is very well put. I think you said it better than I have.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I think with that note, it raises another question, because obviously most healthcare professionals are trained, as I say, to put patients first. So therefore, self-care might not necessarily always be the priority among the clinicians. I'm just wondering, what is your view when it comes to self-care, so to speak, among the medical frontliners?
I have to admit that I'm guilty of that as well myself, because as healthcare professional, we always think that we need to put patients first. We need to save their life. We need to do whatever we can so that they improve at any cost. We are trained like that from the day in medical school or nursing school. So it is a challenging concept for us in this pandemic, that we have to learn to look after ourselves first, because we've seen so many healthcare workers being infected around the world, and that is very alarming. I during the start of the pandemic, when we came up with all the protocol, I remember teaching our junior medical staff and nursing staff that we really have to, for example, take the time to don our PPE, the personal protection equipment, before we rush into saving lives. Even when the patient is deteriorating in front of us, in that most critical moments, the most important thing we need to do is look after ourselves. We need to make sure our PPE is done properly so that we're not infected, because we can't afford to have any healthcare worker infected at that time. So that process itself is very challenging, very thought-provoking, because none of us have, had this kind of mindset before this happened.
Because the tendency is just drop everything, rush and go to save the patient, rescue the patients, or as I said, to put the patient welfare first. But this COVID pandemic somehow, I guess, that has how a lot of the healthcare professionals know that it's not selfish to actually care for yourself first, because you are the one who has been, I guess, a task or gone through so much training, have these specialist skills and ability to do what you do. And if, as I said, more and more healthcare professionals are being infected or burned out, exhausted, then what hope, I guess, for a lot of people who are so-called on the other side of patients. And I know that it's always a confrontational mindset for healthcare professionals, because sometimes they may think that it's selfish, or they may feel of being judged by other people, even by the general society, may also have this so-called perhaps unrealistic expectation that, hey, you need to actually put your life at risk to save someone else.
Absolutely right, Edmund. It was correct, because this is really confronting for all of us as well, because we are so-called the frontliner. So if the frontliners are down, who is defend the rest?
Yeah.
It's just my take.
That's right. Yeah. So unfortunately, the pandemic is still here. It has been more than a year right now. When it comes to your professional and personal self-care, I'm just thinking that what actually comes to mind for yourself when you think of this word self-care?
Self-care to me, there are many facets to that. I think it involves your physical self-care, emotional self-care, and to me, a very important facet is the spiritual self-care. To me, physical self-care, I can think of, having a very healthy lifestyle as much as we can, sleep well, rest well, healthy eating habit, exercise, all these important things. And also emotional healthcare, it's very important to have something that you enjoy doing, something that an outlet that you can go to release your stress, a hobby. So social support, and I think spiritual healthcare, self-care is also very important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that perhaps it's an area that a lot of people perhaps so-called ignore or neglect. But once again, at least for me, I'm a strong believer that we are the holistic being. It's not just physical, mental, relational, social, financial, but also the spiritual aspects as well, which you have actually highlighted very much important. Again, as cliche as it may sound, like, especially when you're working in an environment where death and dying is so-called can be very common and confrontational, and that a lot of times tends to raise up a lot of spiritual questions, the big questions, what we call existential questions, just why there's pain and suffering in the world, why there's this pandemic, is there a God, where is God, all these different philosophical existential questions, and being a healthcare professional yourself, sounds like the spiritual self-care has been one of your anchor that helps you to keep doing what you do best.
Correct.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. I guess when we talk about spiritual self-care, can you just share one or two spiritual self-care strategies that you actually engage in that give you this sense of strength, of hope, despite of a very, I guess, sometimes even doom and gloom type of environment, especially through the media, unfortunately. So if you can share one or two with us. Again, I understand it's from your personal faith journey. That would be good as well.
Yeah. So I believe that everyone should have a faith. For me, my faith is belief in Jesus Christ. That's my personal faith. And I like to engage myself in with the church, and also to have constant fellowship with close friends who share the same faith belief, and we pray together, and we could share together, and then we read the Bible. So these activities give me a lot of strength.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I do acknowledge that we have a lot of viewers, listeners out there may share different type of faith-based practices of belief, but the ultimate part again is to find that, I guess, spiritual meaning or belonging that matters to you. But again, thank you for your openness in sharing your spiritual faith. Apart from being an ICU consultant, you're also a wife and a mother of 3 children under 10, including a newborn baby. So again, moving forward, do you have any suggestions that you can share with our medical frontliners in continuing to engage with their own self-care?
Yeah, I can share some of my experience as a mother and also having a busy life being an ICU consultant. I think for me, like I mentioned earlier on, it's important to have a routine. For example, a routine of rest, exercise. And so to me, exercise is my outlet, and also to have a hobby that you can do. So and when I'm home with the kids, especially during lockdown, I acknowledge that it can be very difficult. So don't be guilty for having a few moments for yourself. So for me, I just have to tell the kids that give mommy 5-10 minutes. I'll turn on the TV. I'm not guilty of turning on the TV, having some screen time, just to distract them, so I could, have a bit of a quiet time myself in the room. I think that's the moment that you spend with yourself, doing a bit of a refreshing and soul searching. It's very important for the self-care.
When you talk about having a hobby, I know that you paint and paint quite a fair bit, and personally I've seen a lot of your paintings, and you also recently given me or us a painting as well for which we really like and appreciate. And the whole view, again, whether you're a mom or dad, I think it can be, and it's very real, especially when we have children. But again, what you said is so critical and important. Just giving ourselves this permission to slow down, permission to say, hey, I'm after all, I'm human. I have my own ups and downs. My well-being fluctuates, and especially healthcare professionals. Again, you guys are trained in many areas of looking after your own well-being, but then it's so important to acknowledge that we all have our own level limitations, and we have multiple roles that we are playing. So giving ourselves permission to be humans once again, I think that is so critical. As I said, not feeling guilty or even having a series of micro moments and quality throughout your day to be able just for yourself, or soul searching, as mentioned earlier, or just to let your hair down to really,
Correct. And I have to be honest with you, and I'm not afraid to share these. I actually learned all this from a psychologist many years ago when I first had my first child. I had postnatal depression. So it was really hard and humiliating or humbling for a health professional like myself to admit that I have a struggle in my life, to have postnatal depression. But I went on a group therapy and I learned a few tricks from the psychologist. And I do highly recommend that even as healthcare professionals, it's very hard to admit that you need help. But I highly recommend that if you find that you're not quite right, you just need some help, some guidance, go and seek help from a counselor or a psychologist. It is immensely helpful for me, because once I have the insight that I need help, then you're almost on the path of recovery. So that's important.
Once again, Siew Wai, thank you for highlighting that. It's so important, as I said, being healthcare professionals, sometimes whether it's because of our own, people may use the strong word ego, or I need, or this mindset saying that I know all these things, I got to have everything together, I should be able to do this on my own. But acknowledging that, hey, at one point in time, saying that I need help can be the most important turning point for mental health well-being. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. I'm afraid that that's all the time that we have for today. Once again, thank you for joining us, Siew Wai. And of course, especially if you are the medical frontliners who want to kickstart your self-care plan, you can download the COVID-19 self-care plan for healthcare workers from the Black Dog Institute, or visit their website, blackdoginstitute.org.au. And once again, our biggest thanks and appreciations go out to all our medical frontliners and other frontliners as well. So thank you for watching. I'm Dimas from Strength Optimizers. We are here to bring out the best in you by optimizing your strengths. Have an awesome day, everyone. And thank you once again, Siew Wai. Hope to chat to you next time again.
Pleasure. Thank you, Edimus.
Bye.